of a president making sense of the unpredictable and the unthinkable. And the more we look back on our first 20 years, the more we look forward to sharing the next 20 and beyond.
America is far less safe, and the world is far less safe than when Obama made the decision to put Hillary Clinton in charge of America's foreign policy.
So that is a new ad from Donald Trump. He just tweeted it out a few minutes ago. You see there at the end, I don't know if it showed up on the screen, but it says it was paid for by the Republican National Committee. We have no details yet on where that will be running, on how much they'd be putting into running that ad. But we haven't seen too much in the way of Trump advertising. Now you see that sort of heavily produced ad right there coming out in the last few minutes. Joined now by Mike Pesca, host of Slate's podcast, The Gist, also with us, MSNBC senior editor of politics, Beth Woolley. Just getting our first look here at this Trump ad. We know Donald Trump has some money now. We learned that yesterday, taking in about $80 million. So his campaign will be able to put these ads like this on the airwaves. The message there, Beth, though, that we're seeing is very consistent with the Trump message we saw at the Republican National Convention.
Yep, he's doubling down on that, which I think struck a lot of us at the convention as unusually dark, even for Trump. I mean, he's talked a lot about immigration, of course, and some of the threats overseas, but he was cracking down on crime and the inherent, destabilized United States and how dangerous things are here domestically. And this ad seems to be reinforcing that. Of course, talking about putting Hillary Clinton back in charge of foreign policy. He's obviously. I mean, they say that they never do any focus groups or testing. They clearly are. They're clearly finding out that this is a message that resonates with a lot of voters. The problem is it kind of resonates with the Trump voters. The question is whether it's resonating any further than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, Mike, because we just showed it earlier. The suburbs of Philly, and I'm using it sort of as a microcosm for suburbs everywhere across the country. The question for Trump is it resonating there?
Yeah, the suburbs of Kansas City, the suburbs, in Davenport. The other thing I'd say about this ad, there's nothing that you would rate it as, pants on fire. It's a fair enough argument, but it seems like the kind of argument we'd make a couple months ago before a lot of polling came out that says Americans trust Hillary Clinton more than Trump. So if what you're thrusting forward is the issue of who's going to keep you safe, I think Trump loses that fight, and so why is that the argument he wants to make? One of the few things he's doing better on is the economic argument and cares about downwardly mobile white workers. That probably should be what he's emphasizing, not who's going to be safe in this crazy world.
Well, so there's the Trump effort to sort of disqualify Hillary Clinton on the question of national security. That comes about 12 hours after this ad came out from the Clinton campaign trying to do the same thing to Trump. Take a look.
He governs consistent with some of the things he said as a candidate. I would be very frightened.
He's been talking about the option of using a nuclear weapon against our Western European allies.
This is not somebody who should be handed the nuclear codes. You have to ask yourself, do I want a person of that temperament control the nuclear codes? As of now, I have to say no.
Well, what can he say? And again, not an ideological message here. This is not about the Hillary Clinton wants to take foreign policy-wise versus Donald Trump. This is just a question of basic fitness to handle the nuclear code.
Well, if anything, it's ideological jiu-jitsu, because that was stopped with Republican and conservative commentators selling out who should be not selling out, but aptly criticizing their own candidate. I saw Max Boot tweeting, I never thought I'd be used in a Democratic ad, but it's fine that you're using me because he really thinks that. They played a version of that ad, and they could have done a 4-minute version, because they played a version of that during the convention, and it was notable that so many of the people who are questioning Trump are Republicans. Some of them have said they're going to vote for Hillary. They've never voted for anyone but a Republican in their life.
Yeah, and Beth, we got in the New York Times today, Mike Morell has an op-ed saying, I ran the CIA and I don't trust Donald Trump to lead the country. This seems to me like if you're the Clinton campaign and you're ahead and you want to keep some traditional Republican voters from sort of rallying around their party standard bearer, this is the way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the message there. It's like, come on over, the water's fine. You can actually break with this guy that you're probably a little bit uncomfortable with, even though he represents your party, and come over to Hillary Clinton, who's making a very strong pitch around security, but also that temperament issue. I mean, like you were saying, it's really not this a binary choice between a liberal and a conservative. This is somebody who is stable versus unstable. She's really been hooking to that message now for a few days, ever since the convention. He's given her lots and lots of fodder to work with, obviously, with some of the sort of erratic things that he said this this week. But as you guys were saying, it's really a pitch for Republicans, and apparently it's working. You've been talking a lot about what's going on in Pennsylvania. Those voters in the Philly suburbs who might have supported Romney are coming over to her, and she is welcoming them. Hillary Clinton is welcoming those folks.
And they'll listen. My sense is they'll listen to the messengers you see in that ad. They'll listen to them, Mike.
Yeah, they're validators.
The big picture question coming out of this week, this is probably the worst week Donald Trump has had. Did this race change in a permanent way this week? Or are we just, 3 or 4 weeks from now back saying, hey, Donald Trump's only 2 points behind, he could win this thing?
We don't know if polls at this point are notoriously bad, so in a couple weeks we'll be able to tell if this week's is what we think we're seeing is true, but how can you argue that he was doing anything but playing massive amounts of catch-up, doing no amount to get his message out, just having, another terrible week where he needs to make up ground and he's losing ground.
And I think the bigger problem is that we're going into Olympics now, which is going to take everybody's attention away from politics. The narrative that exists right now is that Trump's losing, Trump's flailing. It's going to sort of harden into temporary, permanence, because nobody's going to be paying attention to politics for the next 2 weeks.
And I guess the flip side is if there's such a thing as a reset button in the Trump world, maybe this is their chance to press it with the Olympics. Mike Pesca there. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. As always, that's going to do it for this hour. I'm Steve Kornacki, and MTP Daily with Chuck Todd starts right now.
If it's Friday, as the Olympic torch lights up Rio, the Trump campaign is looking to torch.
It's over there.
Can his campaign get back on track? Or has Donald Trump simply hit too many hurdles? If all else fails, he can just blame it on Rio. This is MTV Day at 10, starts right now. Good evening, I'm Chuck Todd here in Washington. Blameless here. It's all Rio's fault. Welcome to MTV Daily. As the adage goes in politics, good gets better and bad gets worse. It's a favorite line of Haley Barker's. Well, a week that began with 36 hours of Trump chaos has ended with some conservatives, 1, running re-election ads against him, 2, publicly questioning his sanity, and 3, preparing for a Clinton landslide by saying, don't be a blank check against President Clinton. Folks, this was an unprecedented and frankly ridiculous week in presidential campaign history. This race may have fundamentally changed. You're looking at a quick look at just some of the headlines that detail what a disastrous week it's been for Trump. And you look at it, and you can some of the big ones. I mean, like the 7th headline, I think, in there is the sitting president of the United States saying that one of his successors, potential successors, is unfit for the office. All of those headlines, one of them could have created a bad day for him. Combined, it has created what this week has become. That said, when you look at all of our polling, his message still resonates, even if he is struggling to resonate. But his candidacy does feel like it's been on the brink. Trump took the stage moments ago, holding a joint rally with Mike Pence in Des Moines, Iowa, before hitting the ground in Paul Ryan's backyard, Green Bay, Wisconsin, where Donald Trump is now expected to endorse Ryan, according to sources familiar with those plans. It's an endorsement, perhaps, that Trump needs to make more than Ryan needs to receive. At his rally right now, though, Trump ratcheted up attacks on Clinton and rejected concerns about his own temperament. Take a listen.
If Hillary Clinton becomes president, you will have terrorism, you will have problems, you will have, really, in my opinion, the destruction of this country from within. All of my life I've been told, you have the greatest temperament. All of my life I've had pressure. And I've been told by so many people that know me, under pressure, Donald, that's when you do the best.
Folks, here are 2 poll numbers that could spell even more trouble for the GOP, though. Clinton leads by 9 points nationally in our new NBC Wall Street Journal poll. But look at this one, a jaw-dropping result in Georgia from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Poll there showing Clinton ahead in a state that hasn't gone Democrat since 1992. That one is one that you could argue starts stinging more than anything in the bump now. Joined now by Barry Bennett. He's a former Trump senior advisor, former Carson campaign manager. Barry, look, you're a guy that doesn't beat around the bush. It's obviously a bad week.
Yeah, it's a really bad week.
Is it still? How does he prevent it from cementing?
Well, his assets are, he's got this really powerful demonstrated a lack of discipline in delivering that message. When he delivers it fearlessly. But the discipline hasn't been there to do it, and he's chased all these stories of the day down every rabbit hole that come along the trail. He's got to get back to a disciplined message. You know, I personally believe that talking about Hillary Clinton is not going to get you very many votes. These two are wildly unpopular. Whoever pivots big is going to win.
What do you mean by that?
I mean,
What's big mean?
Talking to people who are really, really frustrated with Washington, people that haven't gotten a pay raise in 4, 5, 6 years, they've not been able to find a job in that long. This Mexican heroin is ravaging our towns across the country. If you can talk to those people about those issues and forget all this other junk, you'll win.
Let me ask you this one. How come you're not with the campaign anymore?
I don't know, that's the... I found out that I was a senior advisor in the Washington Post, and I found out that I wasn't at CNN, so it's kind of an interesting case.
Well, I guess I asked that because you're not the only one. I mean, there's sort of... there seems to be a revolving door. Would you describe... Is there two campaigns? That's what some people describe it as. There's sort of the orbit around Trump, the candidate, the traveling campaign, and then there's the structure that Paul Manafort's been trying to put into place. Is that what it looks like? Describe it for us.
Well, I think both are needed. I think Paul's doing a great job putting together the structure, the 50 state operations. But, they've got to connect the two, right? You've got to connect to what Donald Trump does at these rallies with the campaign. And if he can get back to focusing on this he created this message all by himself. There were no consultants or anybody else in the room. And it was very, very powerful. If he gets back to that message, we're going to see all these polls start to slip. I mean, I think, the one thing that we know about this race is whoever the wins is probably never going to get to 50, and that there's no cement in any of this sand.
So that's it, guys. Bye.